Do you own a small business? Do you have an HR department? If you have a company but do not yet have an HR department in place, you may not even know where to start. My name is Katie Spadoro, and I'm a SHRM certified HR expert and the founder of Cyber and CYB Human Resources. We provide support to growing businesses that may not be ready to hire in-house HR, but still need to follow the many laws. What we cover in this video and essay will be how to build an HR department from scratch. What is the most important part? What are your greatest needs? We'll cover all of that and more. Something we've experienced is working with companies with no HR, even in companies with no HR, and it's definitely not pretty. To make matters worse, if you do decide to hire an HR professional at some point, if you do not already have a process and procedure in place for that HR employee to pick up and run with, I can almost guarantee you that they will become overwhelmed and quit. If you hire an HR professional, you want to essentially hand them a package of your HR department as it is. That means you need something in place to give them. That way they have somewhere to start. If you hire an HR professional, they come in day one and you say, okay, well, that's it, get started with nothing in place, it will not be pretty. The better option would be you hire an HR pro, and over the previous few years, you've worked with an outsourced HR team like CYB or Cyber to build the basics of that HR department already. That way, when you do hire an HR professional, you can say that they will be tasked with updating and reviewing all the current HR processes, and here's what we have so far. That is a much less overwhelming task for anyone. Here's a quick story from a real-life small business as stated on SHRM, which is a perfect example of what I also have personally experienced. When Lewis Cabinet Specialties in Utah hired Greg Hawks as its first full-time HR director, Hawks had a surprising reaction. I was super overwhelmed, he said. This feeling wasn't prompted by the people he'd be working with, the company's owners, or even the business himself. He is a well-regarded family-owned business. Hawks' his uneasiness stemmed from the sheer amount of work he was facing in organizing HR for the 94-employee company. When he started with the company, Hawks discovered that the HR activities focused only on payroll and managing time off. The whole HR department was a couple of hanging folders, a lot of sticky notes, and a few folders on Google Drive, he said. His experience illustrates a key consideration for anyone taking on the task of creating an HR function from scratch. By the time business leaders realize that HR is about more than paying, hiring, and firing employees, they've usually put some building blocks in place. At the same time, creating the remaining capabilities requires a tremendous amount of planning. As a result, many HR professionals who have built HR departments say that the job begins with reviewing what the company has already in place. And then they'll clean it up as necessary and expand it to meet the organization's needs and any legal requirements. In this company's case, the company's aha moment occurred when one of its owners decided to manage the HR himself. When he saw that everything was sticky notes and emails, he said the owner realized, we really do need someone who knows what they're doing and can devote their entire job to this. We can't just give this to our accountant. We can't just give this to our customer service manager. We need a full-time HR person. This is something that many business owners go through and many business owners face. The problem is, obviously, is that there's budgets in place and time, so that really is what Cyber is put into place to do. Our goal is really to help you get to the point where you have HR in place and then expand on that. For business owners, hiring a full-time HR professional may feel like an immediate solution to their workforce challenge, but for the practitioner, organizing HR and turning it to operate effectively requires time, patience, and careful consideration. On top of that, it requires a step-by-step plan to identify what's being done currently correctly and what isn't, what needs to be changed, and how HR will grow with the organization over time. As you can see, like I said, this is a common occurrence among small business owners. Eventually, you will get to the point of needing HR. You do not want to wait for that point to start thinking about it for the first time. Preparation is huge in this type of situation. That is where working with an outsourced HR professional like us at Cyber comes in handy. You don't need to hire a full-time employee. We are used to working with small businesses and simplifying what they already have in place. At that point, we can more clearly see what's missing and assist with you and your processes moving forward. The first step of building your HR at your small business is to review what you currently have in place. Any policies, procedures, processes, job descriptions, handbooks, etc. When we first start working with a client, the first thing we have them do is to get together everything they currently have whether that's one sticky note or an entire drive of HR paperwork. Once we review what they currently have in place, we can then create a game plan for their next steps. A good example that I have seen regarding this type of issue is a company that had been incorrectly administering the Family Medical Leave Act. Keep in mind, this applies to companies with 50 or more employees. As stated on DOL.com, the FMLA entitles eligible employees of covered employers to take unpaid job-protected leave for specific family and medical reasons, with continuation of group health insurance coverage under the same terms and conditions as if the employee had not taken leave. Eligible employees are entitled to the following: 12 work weeks of leave in a 12-month period for the birth of a child and to care for the newborn child within 1 year of birth, the placement with the employee of a child for adoption or foster care, and to care for that newly placed child within the first year of placement, to care for an employee's spouse, child, or parent who has a serious health condition that makes the employee unable to perform the necessary functions of his or her job, anything qualifying that arises out of the fact that the employee's spouse, son, daughter, or parent is a covered military family member or covered active duty, or 26 work weeks of leave during a single 12-month period to care for a covered service member with a serious injury or illness. If the eligible employee is the service member's spouse, son, daughter, parent, or next of kin, which is military caregiver leave. You can download the FMLA guide for employers on DOL.com, and it'll also be listed on our website as well. In the specific situation that I am referring to, in this example, the company themselves was not making employees aware that they may be eligible for FMLA. This is a huge problem and something that not many people know. Business owners need to let their managers know what to be looking for when it comes to FMLA. For example, if a manager overhears one employee telling another that their parent is seriously ill and they think they need to quit their job to take care of them, that manager needs to step in and let the employee know that they may be eligible for FMLA and that they need to go speak with HR. They need to let HR know as well. If they do not do that and the employee quits, there may be a significant legal issue. I have seen employees get attorneys after realizing they did not need to quit their job and they just didn't know about FMLA. They would have been eligible for FMLA if they knew about it. In this specific instance, it was found that the employee was eligible for back pay, which the company had to pay. This is a great example of something that if you are not an HR professional, you may not have the knowledge surrounding it. That is why it is so important to hire someone who is a full-time HR pro and have them on your side. The second step we take when we're building out a client's HR is following the gap analysis, we begin creating a path of moving forward. Cyber certified HR pros prioritize what needs to be put in place next. Typically, the next step when working with a client would be the employee handbook. Our belief is, as most other HR professionals, is that an updated employee handbook that is industry specific is the basic building block of your HR. Employee handbooks allow small businesses to record all policies and procedures in one place. That way, all issues are addressed in a simplified, consistent, and legally compliant way. Much of the time, organizations do have ways of doing things, but they're just not documented. These informal practices should be formalized. They need to be written down to defend business decisions that the owner may make. If your employee handbook says things are to be done a certain way, that is the way they should be done. If they are not done consistently, it essentially invalidates the rest of the policies in the handbook. All policies should be followed. That being said, your policies must be policies that make sense for your business and the individual managers who will be implementing the policies anyway. That is why we find it very important to include all levels of management in the creation of employee handbooks. Our experience has been that the process is much cleaner when the management team and all of the managers have had a say in the creation of the policy themselves. They feel more comfortable and confident actually working through the policies if they were involved in it. There are a few options when looking for outside help. As stated on SHRM, creating an HR department and function at your business for the first time can be a daunting task. Regulatory requirements can be as complex as they are voluminous. Many experts say that the effort is simply too involved for one person to take on alone. On top of that, once HR is established in an organization, it must be managed. Even as practitioners are keeping up with the changing laws and evolving best practices, they must see the day-to-day work involved with handling payroll, benefits, recruiting, hiring, onboarding, completing performance reviews, tracking FMLA, the list goes on. The good news is that business owners don't have to do everything themselves. Here are a few widely used options. Professional employer organizations, which are PEOs, they provide HR services under a co-employment model. This means they become your worksite employer while your organization remains the employer of record. Under this arrangement, the PEO administers areas such as payroll, benefits, regulatory filings. In practice, it also manages risk by keeping up to date on changing employment rules. To be sure, engaging a PEO can distance employees from your company, water down your culture, and require HR to manage an outside organization. Also, PEOs may not be a good fit once you surpass 100 employees, suggested by Sherm. PEOs are one size fits all, he said. So employers with more than 100 workers may need a more tailored solution. HR consultants is another option, and that is a more tailored solution. They can achieve similar results to PEOs. For example, some consultants may specialize in designing the HR function and policies, while others focus on creating handbooks, talent acquisitions, employee relations plans. Consultants can take a lot of your work off your shoulders. However, they can sometimes meet resistance from employers who prefer the benefits, performance reviews, and all of that is overseen by the company directly. So if you are working with an HR consulting team, or if you're one of our clients, essentially you have an internal designee and we work hand in hand with that internal designee. So for the most part, everything really is overseen by the company directly. The third option would be just general outsourcing. So that kind of involves farming out specific responsibilities to a third party. For example, some small to mid-sized businesses hire outside companies to process payroll or manage benefits. We love that. The advantages, a lot of paperwork is taken off the small businesses' shoulders. Compliance can be more easily managed. The disadvantages, you do depend on vendors to complete often sensitive tasks and do them correctly and on time. A benefit of working with two of the last ones, the HR consultants and the outsourced vendors hand in hand, is that the HR consultants, like ourselves, manage the outsourced vendors as needed. So if you really need help running the payroll and processing and getting in touch with all of your benefits specialists, we really are that buffer, so you don't really need to get all the way involved. When deciding whether to pursue any of these options, you'll have to consider the cost. Over time, like any area of your business, you would re-examine that decision. Overall, any of these options we feel are better than saddling a current employee who has minimal HR training and real-life experience with the massive task of your company's HR management. Finally, humans. As I always like to say, human beings are notoriously unpredictable. You can have all of your proper processes, procedures, and compliance in place. However, you can never fully be prepared for everything. Our best advice to our clients, cover your bases the best you can, work hand in hand with an HR professional, be sure you're prepared for the worst while you're hoping for the best. We ask our clients to run ideas and new policies by us prior to sending out emails and things like that, so we can give them our knowledge and what the experience has been in sending emails like that. For example, changes of pay, changes of work times, things like that. A few ways you can manage the human element. When suggesting a policy or procedure, it's important to recognize your expertise and the expertise of those surrounding you. Trust will be huge when moving through the process of implementing HR. It is important you get people on board as you introduce, implement, and experiment with new ways of doing things. Be flexible. Be willing to adjust a policy if it does not fit exactly what you need. Be ready to edit a standard operating procedure and handbook policy if it's just not working. This is normal. Employee handbooks are living, breathing documents. There must be room to flex and change when there's a clear problem with a specific policy or process. Keep your promises. All you have in life is your word. This is not only in HR, of course, but in general. If you say you're going to do something, do it. Document everything. This will go a long way in building trust. If you're interested in learning more about how to build your HR function out, please visit us at cyber.co and let us help. We do it regularly, we know what we're doing, and we're certified HR professionals. I don't know about you, but it's worth it to me to outsource my accounting versus me attempting to spend 100 hours watching QuickBooks tutorials and hoping for the best. My time could be much better spent doing other things, such as helping my clients build out their HR departments, because that's my expertise. We look forward to hearing from you.